The President, please be seated. The trial chamber is now in session, and the floor is given to the co-prosecutor to continue its line of questioning to the witness. The floor is yours. Prosecutor, before our break, I asked questions in regard the quota imposed by the regime. In doing your labor during that time, did you receive sufficient food or meals for that? Response: I cannot describe, no way to describe about living condition, because we were exposed to forced labor because we had very little for meal. Question, can you tell the court the quantity of the food and living condition? You said that it is undescribable. You cannot describe the hardship and the problems. Answer: during the regime, the labor was very, very hard, but there was very little food and meals, but we had to endure, to thrive, to survive, to keep our life. Question, during that regime, did you witness any person who fall sick? Did he or she receive any food or any meals for being sick? Answer, the patients who were staying at their houses, they were distributed with meals, with food, but they received just a ladleful, a scoopful of rice, and there was some other ration for the patient who are at the clinic or at the hospital. Prosecutor, Your Honors, I have no further questions to put to the witness, and I would like to hand over the floor to my esteemed colleague to continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. And good morning to you, all of you again, as well as to the witness. I'm going to put to you extra questions with regard to what you have lived through, essentially in the district of Tram Kak, and then I will get back later to what happened at Angrok Pagoda. Mr. President, in order to be perfectly clear with regard to our intentions, we started at 9:30, so I'd like to ask you if we could continue until 11:30, since the civil parties don't have many questions, and they might be able to put these questions at the beginning of the afternoon, if this suits the chamber.
Voilà, je vais d'abord
I'm going to first continue, pick up where my colleague stopped, and this regards your digging canals in Tram Kak. And you said that you were speaking about people who fell ill. And you said earlier on that you were considered as a 17 April person. So the unit in which you were working, was it only made up of 17 April people?
Answer, at the work site, there was some 17 April people and there was some base people, but the base people who supervised other people to do labor.
And did you notice if these base people were working in the same places as you, or Did they eat in the same places as you as well?
Answer. In a unit, they would stay in the same place, but for those who work at the villages, the base people were not with the 17 April people.
And in this Tramkak district, did you notice differences in treatment between the 17 April people and the base people in terms of food, in terms of workload, and in terms of housing?
Answer. During that regime, at the beginning, we were divided into base people and 17 April people, and those who were evacuated were allocated in the 17 April people group or unit.
I believe I should repeat the question. My question was, between these two groups, that is to say the base people on one side and the 17 April people on the other side, were there differences of treatment? Were these people treated differently? For example, would you eat the same thing? Were you housed in the same places? And were you treated in the same way as the base people?
Answer. At that place, we had a communal kitchen for the 17 April people and the base people.
You are telling me that the base people would supervise you. Then were there people who were mistreated among the 17 April people?
Answer. I did not witness any mistreatment at my place.
Did you see people being taken away or disappear when you were working in Tramkak district?
Answer. I noticed some disappearance, but I asked people, and people told me that they don't know what happened to them because they were sent for re-education by the Angka. That's all I know. President, so court officer, could you coordinate to take him out for medication or treatment? The President, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you. Witness, you're speaking about some people who disappeared. Did this happen often? And can you give us the names of the people, of some people who disappeared, people you knew?
Answer. I don't know the one who disappeared.
I am not sure that we understood each other. I don't know if this is a translation issue. You just told us that some people had disappeared to be re-educated. And I would like to read out to you an excerpt of your written record of interview before the co-investigating judges, E3/5133, on page 5 in French, at number 00702336. English ERN on page 4, 00223200. And Khmer on page 4, 00165261. And this is what you told the investigators, and I quote, in translation, I met Nukmen and his wife, Kim Nova, and we worked together. And later on, Ankar proposed to this couple and to their daughter to take them away, since these people have disappeared forever. End of quote, free translation. Can you tell us what happened exactly with Nokmen and Kim Nova, and can you tell us who these people were exactly?
Answer. The couple, they were the supporter when I was in Phnom Penh, and during the evacuation, they were sending to Angkor, and they were also working in the worksite at Angkor, and later Angkor proposed to take them away, and later they disappeared forever. I don't know what happened to them.
And when you say that Angkor proposed to take them away, according to you, did they have the choice of leaving, or were they obliged to leave?
Answer. No. They were left with no choice. They could not complain because they had no idea where Angkor will send them to. They didn't understand the policy or the plan of Angkor. And they were told that Angkor proposed them to go to another place, and they didn't ask any question for any clarification. So they told the Khmer Rouge the true story of their past. So they were taken away and disappeared.
Well, with regard to their past exactly, did you know what Niknem and Kim Nova's occupation was before the arrival of the Khmer Rouge?
Answer. Both of them were movie stars, Nop Nam and Kim Nova. They were the famous movie stars. Their house was on the TV in Turkok area.
Fine, thank you. Now I would like to ask you, or put to you, two questions with regard to the prisons. Did you hear about a prison that was located in An Rok when you were there on site? Did you hear about a Khmer Rouge prison in An Rok?
Answer. No, I didn't see that.
Did you ever hear about another security center located in Krang Tachang in the district of Tram Kak again?
Answer. I just heard about that, but I did not witness anything because freedom of movement was prohibited. I did not go to that place because I was always stay in my village as instructed by the regime.
What did you hear about Krang Tachang? Did you know exactly what it was? And what happened to people who were sent there?
Answer. I heard from other people something, but I don't know for sure what has happened inside that security center.
And during the period when you worked in Trabkak district, did you hear about what happened to people who were identified as officials of the Lon Nol regime, or as soldiers, or as officers of that same regime?
Answer. Those who were Lon Nol officials, they face a lot of problem, and also policemen, teachers, professors are all the target of the proposal. They were proposed and taken away, and I don't know their destination and what happened to them.
You told us that they were targeted, but how were the Khmer Rouge able to identify them as officials or as former servicemen of the Lon Nol regime? How did the Khmer Rouge go about identifying them?
Answer. They use their method, saying that Angkar need anyone who used to be official during Lon Nol and during Sihanouk regime, and Angkar need them to do the job for them because they don't have this kind of skilled people, and those people who had no idea what happened to them in the future, and they told the Khmer Rouge the truth of their past, but a few of them had an idea who hid their identity, who could survive. Only very few of them.
You, as a Buddhist monk, do you know what happened back then to the Wat Champa Luk Pagoda? Champa, C-H-A-M-P-A, Luk, L-E-U-K, in Tramkak district, after the Khmer Rouge took power. Did you hear about this back then?
Answer. No, I don't know anything what happened in that pagoda. Because I had to stay in my village, in my commune. I was not authorized to move around, so I had no idea what happened there.
And in your village, in your unit, or in your commune, did you ever meet people who were working there and who originally came from Kampuchea Kraum, who therefore spoke with an accent?
Answer. No, I didn't see anyone like you mentioned at my place.
And during the period when you remained at Wat Angroka, and during the period in which you worked in Tramkak district, did any senior leaders, that is, say, at the district level, or the sector level, or the zone level, or from the center, did any of these senior officials come to visit the place where you were working?
Answer: No, I didn't see anyone who is a senior leader. I know only people who will supervise me when I was working at the work site.
D'accord.
Fine. Now I would like to get back to the meeting that you spoke about at Angroka, during which you were given clothes and during which you were told you had to be defrocked. And you said that the person who was chairing that meeting came with militiamen, and among them, were there armed militiamen?
Answer: Yes, all militiamen were armed. They would bear arms, rifle when they moved from one place to another. So they would follow the cadre from one commune to another with the rifle along.
Thank you. At Angroka, as far as you know, was there ever a meeting during which the monks were told to defrock, or were there several at different times?
Answer: It was the only meeting at Angroka Pagoda, and we were instructed to do labor for them.
Now I would like to read an excerpt of the written record of interview and ask you if you were told this at Angroka. This is an excerpt that is in the same document, that is to say E3/5133, French, it's on page 5, 00702336, English on page 5, 00223201, and Khmer, page 5 as well, 00165262. And this is a passage in which you say you met a monk later on, close to Kampok and Damnak Trawyong, and you spoke about what happened, what was said during certain meetings. So I quote, the monk is asking you, what did Ankar speak about during that meeting? And I answered that we were summoned very often to meetings during which they would mock us. Free translation, and a passage in quotation marks. For thousands of years, monks are like worms and leeches, and the madmen are on top and the idiots at the bottom. End of quote. So, does this quote that say for thousands of years monks are like worms and leeches, did you hear this at Angroka or in other places as well?
Answer: I would like to tell the court of what I heard about the statement saying that Buddhists are leeches and worms. I went to see my monk teacher who was still in monkhood, and he told me that he was called to the meeting, and he told me that the mad was on top and the stupid was under the monk, and I told him that you should not try to stay. This is going to be very serious. He was 80 years of age at the time, and he said that I don't care about my life. I'm old already. This is what I heard from him.
Thank you. But can you tell us when you were told that monks were considered like tapeworms and leeches, and who told you that?
ពេលអង្គប្រជុំម្ដង
It was heard during each meeting. It was well known during the meetings at the village or at the commune.
Thank you. Now I would like to read out an excerpt from a written record of another person. I cannot give this person's name. This is the person with pseudonym TCW 874 T2 TCW 847. This is an excerpt describing a meeting in Angroka in which the monks were asked to defrock, and this is document E319.1.33. The relevant passage that I'm going to read out is at answer 146 to 155. And I'm going to read out these excerpts, and then I will have a few questions to put to you afterwards. Free translation. Question 146. What happened to the Buddhist monks after the liberation of 17 April 1975? Answer. From the other witness, I saw that the monks were being defrocked. Question. Where and when did you see this happen? Answer 147. I saw this in Anroka Pagoda, Tramkak district, towards the end of 1975. So, how were the monks defrocked? Answer 148. The Khmer Rouge organized a meeting during which they defrocked 30 or 40 monks. Who led this meeting? Answer 149. It was one of Tamok's children, a head of district, and he chaired that meeting. What was his name? Answer 150. His child was called Khom, Khom. It was a woman who was the leader of Tramkok district, and she had occupied this position before Chim. Khom was the wife of Tamuk. How is it that you are aware of the Buddhist monks defrocking? Answer 151. I had to carry letters over there. I saw that they were defrocking monks. And what do you mean by in the process of defrocking monks? Answer 152. They declared that they no longer needed monks. They prepared a set of black clothes for the defrocked monks. And finally, they did not do this according to Buddhist rituals. Question. Were they monks who refused to defrock? Answer 153, no one. No one dared to contest this. So I'm going to stop here. So this is what another witness says regarding a meeting at the Angrokar Pagoda. Witness, can you confirm? And you told us that the meeting took place in 1976, so can you and the other witness is speaking about the end of 1975. So what do you think about this? Do you confirm that this happened in 1976, or maybe it happened at the end of 1975?
In 1976, all the monks had to leave the monkhood. So it happened in late 1975 and throughout 1976, because by that time, no monks were allowed to stay in monkhood.
Merci.
Thank you. This witness talks about a woman who was presiding the meeting. She was the leader of Tramkak district, called Kam, a child of Tamok. Have you ever heard of her name? Have you ever seen this person during the meeting at Ang-Rokar?
No, I did not recognize this person.
Le témoin
The witness talked about 30 or 40 monks who were told to defrock all at once. Can you please tell us, during the meeting at Ang-Rokar, how many monks were concerned by the measure? How many monks were in the pagoda when you were ordered to defrock?
For the monks at Angkor Pagoda, in fact, they were also gathered from another pagoda in Takai province, including the deputy monk chief of another pagoda. So we were all gathered together. As for the monks, all the monks had to leave the monkhood by early 1976.
Donc vous ne pouvez pas.
Therefore, you do not have an approximation of the number of monks who were concerned. Were there a few, several monks, a few dozen monks, more?
Yes, that is correct, because I did not know the exact number of the monks.
Merci. Est-ce que
Thank you. Have you ever heard about a monk called Ta'ik? Pardon my pronunciation. ECH. This person is the head of a pagoda in Tramkak.
Hello.
Yes, I know H, who was a teacher, a Buddhist teacher at Angkor Pagoda.
savez-vous ce qui lui
Do you know what happened to him? Did he oppose or protest the orders given to the monks?
I didn't know what happened to him, and I believed he was the last monk who left the monkhood.
Merci.
Thank you. I would like to read an excerpt from another testimony. This person has already appeared before this chamber. This person refers to the meeting at Ang-Rokar. The person is called Kyonyu, who appeared on the 20th of June 2012, and the first reference is E130/89.1. At approximately 3:32 p.m., he says, the monks came from Phnom Penh and Takeo. They were gathered together. We learned that Angkar ordered them to leave the monkhood, and that's what was done. However, I do not recall the exact date. It was after April 1975. End of quote. Further on at 3:51, the witness stated, as I stated, the monks came from Takeo and Phnom Penh, and they were gathered at the pagoda. I also left the monkhood. I defrocked earlier. The next day, and this is E131.1, at 9:09, Kyonyu said the following. At the time, we were told that Angkar told us to go to Angkor Pagoda. And further on, do you know who told the monks to go to Angkor? Did they go of their own initiative, or were they ordered? Answer: I do not know the details. When we were discussing amongst ourselves, we realized that Angkor told us all to go to Angkor Pagoda. And at 9:24, he said, I did not see anyone refuse the order to Jifrock.
Est-ce que vous connaissez
Do you know this monk who is called Kyu Nu? Did you meet Kyu Nu at Wat Angkor during the period that you were both there?
Kyu Nu used to be a monk in Phnom Penh through at the Mohammedan Pagoda.
J'attends la...
I'm just awaiting the interpretation of the last segment of your response.
Est-ce que vous pourriez répéter?
Mr. Witness, can you please repeat the last sentence that you said? You said he was in a pagoda in Phnom Penh, and then you stated something afterwards. What was it?
Kyu Nu resided at Mohammedan Pagoda in Phnom Penh, and later on I did not know where he went because I did not see him.
Merci.
Thank you. From his testimony, it would seem that monks from Takeo and Phnom Penh were not at Angkor coincidentally, but that they were given orders by the Khmer Rouge to gather there. You stated that earlier. Do you agree with him on that point? Did the Khmer Rouge order you to go to Wat Angkor specifically?
That is not wrong.
Lorsque vous avez reçu...
When you received the order to leave the monkhood, was it easy for you to follow the orders of the Khmer Rouge? Given that you were monks, did you attempt to disobey, or was there anything preventing you from disobeying those orders?
As for leaving the monkhood, all monks did not dare to refuse. Some other people appealed to us that we could no longer stay in the monkhood, and that we had to leave the monkhood in order to be in peace, and that we had to follow the instructions.
Mais de quoi?
What were you afraid of exactly at the time?
We were afraid because there were instructions from Angkor, and if we didn't follow it, that there would be a matter that we had to concern about.
Merci.
Thank you. I'd like to address the ensuing period when you went to Kampot at the Damnak Trayung monastery. You mentioned this earlier, and you said that when you got there, there was one monk remaining. When you arrived at the monastery, was Damnak Trayung Pagoda being used by monks by practicing Buddhists, or was it being occupied by the Khmer Rouge for other purposes?
No, it was not yet turned into something else by the Khmer rules, as some monks still remained at that pagoda.
Qu'est-il arrivé?
What happened to the monks who were living there? After leaving the monastery, do you know what happened, or did you learn about what happened to the monks who were living there at the time?
ទោះព្រះអង្គ
The monk was accused of burning the scarf and that he refused to join the youth group. He had a nephew who worked at the Cambodia province, and then he came with him on a horse cart, and then he disappeared, and I didn't know what happened to him. And I learned this information through a meeting held by the commune level, and that Angka took him away.
Pourriez-vous
Can you please provide us the name of the venerable person who refused to leave the monkhood? What were his duties at Damnak Trayung Pagoda?
ពួកចៅអធិការវត្ត
His name was Soy. He was the chief monk of that pagoda, and he was quite old. At that time, he was 80-something years old.
Est-ce que
Did you learn why he disappeared? And if so, do you know what offense he allegedly committed?
មិនព្រមមិនដឹង
I did not know what happened. As I said, I learned of that information when we, the youth group, were called to attend a meeting, and that he disappeared. And I only learned it through the meeting, because he didn't follow the instructions of Angka.
តែប៉ុណ្ណឹងបាត់
And that's all I knew about him through the meeting.
à part
Aside from the Venerable Soy, were there other monks from Damnak Trayung Pagoda who died under the Khmer Rouge regime?
I did not know, and I think there was no other monk except him.
je voudrais maintenant
I would like now to ask you a question about what happened in Kampot at Chamkril Pagoda. At a certain point in time, did you ever learn about what Chamkril Pagoda was used for during the Khmer Rouge regime?
I only knew about this when in 1979 or 81, when I returned to stay at Chumkril Pagoda. I saw a hospital cross sign there, and I was told that it was turned into a hospital for the saw farm unit. And that was the best for the saw farm workers there at the pagoda. And the schools were turned into the sleeping quarter for the saw farm workers.
vous avez travaillé.
You worked at Chumkril after the regime, if I understand correctly. Did you see any former monks of Chumkril Pagoda return to the pagoda following the fall of the Khmer Rouge?
No, there was none.
មកនៅពុទ្ធ
I went to stay at the Chumkril Pagoda in 1981 after I had been reordained, and I did not see any previous monks who used to stay there returned. And I asked the elder in the villages if there were any other monks who returned, and they said no, none of them returned, and maybe they all had died.
Je vais terminer.
I will conclude, Mr. Witness, with a few general questions on Buddhism during the Khmer Rouge regime. Before interviewers from DC Cam, you stated that a monk was killed in Samrong district in Takeo, the Samrun commune in Takeo. Can you please describe to us what you saw or what you described to the interviewers?
យើងរត់
As for the event leading to the death of a monk at Ong Prai Pagoda in Samrong commune, I did not witness it myself, but there was a fellow monk who was there, and when I met him, he told me about it. That they were cruel at the time, and if they didn't like it, then they would kill the monks. And I asked who were they, and they told me it was the Khmer Rouge. And a monk was killed by Angka and was buried near the vicinity of the pagoda compound. And that I was told that I should not have any conflict with the Angka or Angka instructions, and that we all should be patient and follow their instructions, otherwise we would be killed by Angka. Angka only wanted people who did not dare to refuse or to make any protest against them.
Est-ce que
Do you know of any examples in Cambodia of monks who would have continued practicing Buddhism, who would have continued living in pagodas during the 1976 to 1979 period? Did you meet any monks who continued to practice after 1979?
During the period of 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, there was no longer any Buddhist monk who was still in monkhood, and that applied throughout the entire Cambodia. We all hate to leave monkhood and to engage in labor, regardless whether they were young or old. And for older monks, even if they could not carry earth, they had to make the basket for the younger monks to carry the earth. Nobody was free during the regime, and nobody at all was in monkhood throughout the country, and that is through my best knowledge.
est-ce que lors des réunions
During the meetings in Tramkak district, did Khmer Rouge cadres tell you explicitly that the Buddhist religion was henceforth abolished, was no longer in existence?
Their principle is that there would be no longer any Buddhism in Cambodia, because they said that Buddhist religion would lead to no progress at all, because then there would be more free people who would sit still, who would do nothing, and just freely enjoy the food offered by other people. And that such culture would no longer exist, and that only the culture of engaging in labor would follow.
Merci.
Thank you. One final question. You've talked to us about Angkhoka Pagoda in Tramkak district, as well as Trayung and Chumkril pagodas in Kampot. Did you ever see or heard what other pagodas were used for? What other pagodas in Kampot were used for during the Khmer Rouge regime if Buddhism no longer existed?
Majority of the pagodas turned into prisons. The temples were also turned into prisons. They make holes along the temple's walls and use a metal bar to shackle prisoners. And some of the temples had been turned into pig pens.
Dernière question de suivi alors.
One final follow-up question. You talked about temples that were transformed into prisons. Do you know the names of which pagodas were converted into prisons?
No, I cannot recall the names of those pagodas. There were several, in fact. Because it was easier for them to transform pagodas into prisons, because the temples in the pagodas were made of concrete, so they could make holes, and then they could insert a metal bar of a 20 millimeter diameter to shackle the prisoners inside. And this also happened in Kampong Trolai district in Kampot province, in Angkor Chai, and in other places.
Très bien, je vous remercie.
Very well. I thank you very much for your patience and all of your answers, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, thank you. And before we take a break, the Chamber would like to inquire from the lead co-lawyers for civil parties, how much time do you anticipate in putting questions to the Venerable Aim Pung?
Merci, Mr. Thank you, President. We would require 30 minutes in order to make up for the lost time from this morning.
President, and what about the defense teams? Would you use the entire time allocated to you, that is one afternoon session?
Mr. President, I think we can finish this afternoon.
President, in order to ensure that the hearing testimony of the Venerable Aim Pung conclude today, the Chamber decides that the hearing will commence at 1:20 this afternoon in order to avoid any unnecessary delay. The time is now appropriate for a lunch break. We will take a break now and return at 1:20 to resume our hearings. And that information is for the parties and support staff. And court officer, please assist the Venerable Ham Pương during the break and invite him to return to the courtroom at 1:20 this afternoon, and security guards John started to take the accused to the waiting room downstairs and have him return to participate in the proceedings before 1:20 this afternoon. The court is now adjourned.